right, so this is going to be a very artificial start because I've just been chatting with these guys for a bit already just to warm up. But hello and welcome to the podcast. It has been said that our faith as Christians is personal but not private. But where do you draw the line? Between Instagram and idolatry, between preaching the gospel or promoting ourselves. I'm joined today by two friends who are no strangers to the internet, to the gram. We'll get to know them better, but first, please welcome MJ and Eddryll. And
Hello. Thanks for having me, Calvin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Really appreciate your time. I think just for the benefit of those who don't know you guys, if you could say something short, maybe a sentence or two to introduce yourselves, who you are and what you do. Let's start with Eddryll.
Okay, my name is Eddryll. I am working with an NGO called Fellowship of Evangelical Students. It's a body that journeys with Malaysian Christians and also internationals throughout all the Christian fellowships in the universities. And I also founded this Instagram page called Malaysian Christian Memes, and that's where I also do online ministry there. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks very much. Thanks, Eddryll. Actually, I met you online as well. So we met eventually when I went back to Malaysia, but I think it's just very apt that we're meeting now on Zoom as well, because I'm in the UK and you're in Malaysia. But I think the fact that we are able to build this relationship, starting with meeting online and now continuing on online, I think it just says that it's possible. It's possible to build a relationship doing that.
Amen to that.
Yeah. MJ, what about you?
All right. I am second generation Christian. Was in the wilderness for 10 years right after college, i.e. not going to church, etc. Recently just started it's kind of re-sanctification again process, right?
Okay.
Right. Been on this journey with Christ, the ups and downs. And as a profession, I basically talk about finance and stock investing on social media.
Yeah, I was watching your videos before I knew you're a Christian.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
I was watching it almost like news, because it's very objective to just hear someone talking about Malaysia. So I was planning to go back to Malaysia, and I was just watching this guy. Hey, this guy just very, very helpful. And then I was surprised, hey, you're a Christian as well.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's a very good touchstone to what I was hoping to start with. How public can we be about being Christians? Because for you, MJ, I think you're already public in a way that is not Christian, and then actually to say that you're a Christian. And then actually I was thinking also of this guy Dan Koo. So I just talked to him last week.
Yep.
And I think many people were surprised that he is Christian as well. So the question is, how public should we be? And the extent can be to like going on YouTube and telling people, about the Bible and about God, especially in a place like Malaysia, especially on a medium like YouTube. What do you guys think?
MJ, you go first? Oh, okay. Sure.
You go first. Yeah.
Okay. I think the two questions that we need to ask is that what is the purpose of coming online first? What's the purpose of content creation, right? And that sets the idea of how public you should be. But as a Christian, I always think you should be as public as you can be. Just how do you practice being wise about communicating that reality? Right? If you're in a more conservative country, may not be the case, right? Sometimes I have certain apologists will come messaging me and asking me questions just because of what I state to be. But because, like for example, Malaysian Christian Memes is a platform to disciple online, that is as public as it can get already lah. So two things lah. Depending on the content you're creating, right? Whether whoever the target audience is or the stakeholders are, and then only you on and off you can say, oh, but I'm a Christian, or you can really go all out lah. So that's my starting point lah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you're almost very sensitive to kind of the response that you get. You know, the moment you say that you're a Christian, or the moment you're talking about Christian things like the Bible and God, you know, there's a kind of response that you're expecting when you post something on Instagram, and you're almost moderating yourself. Is that fair to say?
Yes. That's a very good point to word it that way. I never thought of it that way, but the verse that came to mind was when Paul said, you know, to the Jews, I become like the Jews; to the Romans, I become like the Romans. Not that he became like them, but it's the whole goal of wanting my main lens is to be winsome, you know. So if I can be winsome to a certain context, by all means, I will speak the context that will make sense to them lah. Although people may call me out to over contextualize, I mean, it depends lah. What's best? That's the line you want to draw lah. I know the line I'm gonna draw. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, being winsome. So your English very powerful. Winsome. So that means it's almost like very natural. You know, you're sounding like yourself when you're talking about Christian things, especially online. There's a context to it, but at the same time, people see you as a person, as a Christian. Yeah. Yeah. MJ, are you yourself when you're a Christian online?
Well, sorry, your question is, am I myself when I'm a Christian?
Are you yourself? Online? Yeah, because I think that's the surprise element, because for me, right, I think you are. But when I see you on your channel doing YouTube stuff, I see a professional. I see someone who's very knowledgeable about his field of expertise. And actually, when you speak about Christian things, actually, wow, you know, sometimes it's not something I would associate the element of the expertise with someone being then public about his own very personal faith.
Yeah. I think as far as being public, so it's, for me, it's a bit weird, because I'm not shy to talk about it, but then there's no strong motivation to like talk about it at large, right? So it's not a good or bad thing. It's just what it is. So as far as being like drawing the line, which was your question, a lot of it, of course, is so Eddryll has touched on how you should be if you're online, which is being winsome, presumably open to correction, because obviously when you put your face out there and yourself out there, there's going to be a lot of people coming from many different backgrounds, internally in the Christian world and externally in the non-Christian world as well. That's important to have. And for me, is that, you know, piggybacking on that, let's call it a way of doing things, you have to also figure out the intention of, like, say if you're starting a YouTube channel or an Instagram page, like what are you trying to do, right? And some people, it's like, oh, they're just sharing their own personal, like, spiritual journey, things like that. Then when you share that, it tends to not draw a lot of offense. When you just share it, because this is my subjective personal experience journey with Christ, maybe you had visions, or there's something very unique to you, and that God has essentially used these things to bring you closer to the kingdom, and you're just sharing out there, and you know, some people relate, if people don't relate, that's fine, right? Those kinds are usually less problematic, I would say. The more challenging ones are when you are out there, one, you are trying to promote a specific point of view. So it could be you are a Christian, but you are pro-life. Right. So that is one type. Then the second type would be within Christendom, that you are promoting a specific denomination. That is another, again, I don't use the problematic, but certainly you will draw a lot more friction. And then the third type would be like being an apologist, right? So in contrast to being a denominationalist, you are actually not interacting with the outside world rather than inside of Christendom. So if you are representing a particular view or particular denomination in Christendom, then your detractors will come within the kingdom. But then if you are an apologist, then your detractors are coming outside the kingdom. Now, so I share all this is because all of these things are something that you ought to be aware of if you want to come out, I guess, as Christians. And of course, the line, as Eddryll said, is, being winsome. But the second one would be, are you ready to withstand the kind of pressures that you will get?
That's a good point. You mentioned detraction or maybe even criticism and negative response. And I think that's possibly the number one reason why people are afraid to do this.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that there's a difference between receiving this kind of criticism from inside and outside your friendship circles or even your church. So from within inside, right, it's much safer, and you kind of like understand where people are coming from. But when it's outside, and again, negative always sounds louder than the positive. Yeah. And sometimes, it's a reality. Some of these channels that do very, very well actually will always have an element. It's not. You will never be always positive. In fact, one of the surefire things of something going viral or going very popular is that a large proportion of people are reacting positive but also negative to it, and that always comes as a surprise. You can tell people as much as possible, but they'll always go, oh wow, it can feel very personal. It can feel very discouraging. How would you, I don't know, would that then be something just to prepare someone for what's ahead? Or is that something just to get people prepared in such a way that, hey, but you should still do it, and you should still consider doing it, because that means you are actually making a difference and you are changing minds?
Of course, like making a difference will depend on what you're doing. Ushering church is making a difference, doing many things, right? But some people have gifts, and perhaps their gifts is to be online. Maybe they have a strong passion to educate, all sorts of things, right? Christians, we call it calling, right? And if you have that, then obviously you will need to do it. You will need to face the I'll use the word, even onslaught that will likely, and if you're not prepared, then it's going to be difficult. That's for sure.
I see what you mean. Yeah. So, all of it is valuable. You don't have to have the profile in order to be effective, and you don't have to have the exposure either. And actually, what the kind of effectiveness is always relational. Ushering someone to the chair, it makes a difference to that person as much as whoever is watching this video, Yeah. Anything to add, Eddryll?
I think it's very true what you guys are drawing out. And I think the word that stuck with me, that I think one of the main motivations to do anything has to be relational, because it speaks of God's design for humanity, right? But many of us right now, even through our work, has become very transactional. What can I get out of it? And so when your question is, should we still do it in spite of all of this? My question is, again, why are you doing it? Because let's just say the hidden motivation for this person to start this channel was fame, for example, right? Even if the medium wasn't YouTube or Instagram, if the motivation is still fame, that person will find other means. Let's just say I'm a pastor that wants to be famous. I will try to steal more preaching time slots from as many I can get. So again, so it depends on the motivation. I think as the motivation is clear, what the kind of content that comes out online will be clearly communicated as well. So that's my take. And if you are clear on why you do what you do, and with that, no matter what kind of negative impact can happen, you still want to do what you need to do. And if by all means, start a channel, start a Instagram page.
I'm thinking of one very positive example. So there's this Instagram page that came out just last month that had a kind of like Singlish version of the Bible. I love it. is really, really very good. And what I love about it is two things. Number one, they didn't expect it to go viral. I mean, it was really, no one knew about it. They only have, don't know how many posts about it, but it's in Singapore and then in Malaysia, lots of my friends are watching it. But secondly, the moment it really got a certain amount of traction, I really admire how responsible they suddenly became. They just became more conscious. Hey, I think I need to be more responsible with the language I use. Also the verses that I try to translate. But I thought this was one of those examples whereby it's very positive, but also not purposely to kind of get lots of people to notice it. I think they themselves didn't expect so many people to really enjoy and really benefit from the stuff that they're doing. Yeah. Yeah. But the flip side to that is, in a way, if you wanted to, I don't know, monetize, you wanted to, like Eddryll was giving the example, you don't just have to use the internet. If you wanted to make ministry or church a way of platforming yourself, in a way that can happen. If you wanted to use your friends in a way to get more views and, you know, get big names, that kind of thing, you know, that can be a real temptation as well. And I guess for me, what I would say is it'll be there. You know, I think on the one hand, it's very important to notice it. It's very, very important to be aware of it in such a way that you catch yourself and you almost fight against it, because it can happen at every level. You don't need a YouTube channel in order to do that. I think you can make use of that of your own friends, just generally who you choose to hang out with in church as well. Yeah.
Correct. I think the extra aspect then is if you ask me, right, it'd be foolish for me to say that I don't keep track of the likes of the memes that gets, you know. It'd be foolish to say that sometimes the reel doesn't do well, I go like, oh, it didn't do well, I feel bad. The question is then, while your motivation may be clear, I mean, distractions might come, who is keeping you accountable? I think accountable becomes the second bit lah. So my team on Malaysian Christian memes, right? They will say, "Hey, Eddryll, you said this just now. Is it wise? You know, is it
Okay.
or you posted it? Is that true? You know, maybe you should come out with a disclaimer." Also, so these are the team that keeps me accountable and in check. And when the mistake has already been made, I think it becomes very clear people are watching you, and then that's when, you know, how do you respond in light of the mistake? Do you come up with a public apology, stuff like that lah?
I think that's very true. I think like being open to correction is absolutely important, because especially when you're in the public space, right, what actually ends up happening is because okay, so this is a bit of a side tangent. One of the big issues in the quote-unquote secular world is having now is remote work, right? So remote work, I think it's been praised a lot in the past couple of years, but there seems to be some sort of mini trend reversal right now, saying that it's still great to meet physically and things like that. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you're online, right, what actually ends up is that there's a lot of in a normal conversation, physical conversation, you have non-verbal cues, things like that, non-verbal communication, which actually aids in figuring out why people say what they did, in what tone did they say it, you know, things like that, right? Even body language or vibes, things like that. So when you're online, all these non-verbal context messaging is like out the window, and it almost like dehumanizes the conversation a little bit. And guess what? When that happens, right, that's when a lot of the debates and arguments, sometimes frivolous, will actually start to pop up. And that can result in you becoming, I guess, less winsome, less Christ-like, and you start to without knowing, you start to dehumanize the other side, right? Because the guy don't understand what I'm saying, or like, you know, whatever. And that's when I think when you start dehumanizing the other side, that's when you start saying, "Oh, why should I treat you like a human?" And it can snowball into something very, very you know, ugly, even for Christians, definitely. So that's definitely something I would add lah.
I don't know how to deal with that, to be honest, because it's so real. You're right, actually. It's even before, I mean, to be honest, people turn on this video, right? the split second before they hear us already, right? They've already painted a picture who these people are like and what they're going to sound like
100%.
already. And almost always like it takes amount. I mean, this is like first impressions with anyone you meet, right? It takes a certain amount of time before they actually get to know you and actually hear what you're actually saying. How much more, on something that's just 2D on the screen. Yeah. So I don't know how to deal with that. I mean, I think you've mentioned the problem. I'm not sure what the solution is.
I think it's a feature lah, not a bug of the system. I think it's
just
a
feature. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You just have to accept it lah. It's very hard to change a lot of people, and when someone reacts negatively to you, in a very maybe irrational way, you just gotta again lah, becoming winsome, I guess.
I see.
As long as you don't
If
fall
I
into
may
the same trap lah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I may add, right? While MJ says it's a feature, I call it a reality. Technology supposed to surpass human strength, right? That's the purpose of technology. Okay. But the one thing we didn't realize was technology first surpassed human weaknesses. And when we see someone reacting on a YouTube, for example, like how dare this person say that, right? We either have a choice to either react or respond, and the react is something that we do without thinking. And for me, my modus operandi is every time when I see these kind of comments, right, come on, in my head is there is a person behind that, there is a story behind that, and there's a context behind that. Do I have the capacity to want to dig that out and be invitational? And that's the best I can do. I say, look, hey, why don't you PM me on the side? Let's chat. I want to understand better. If they want to go on the ban, I don't care. You're wrong, whatever. I have to. Okay, all right. I have 24 hours. I have to make use of that time wisely. I will just have to accept that. So it's a reality. It because technology has surpassed humans' weaknesses first before its strength, the one thing it lays before us is the fallenness of a Genesis 3 world, just in a different format. Yeah,
that's very true. That's very true. And one thing that I find helpful for me personally is because even before I started my channel, like I was online, maybe discussing or debating other people on issues, and there's someone out there in the world that has completely opposite views to you, like almost like diametrically, or everything you believe in is complete opposite, right? You think like math is very important, and they think no, I think arts is very important. You're Christian, no, I think I'm anti-Christian, whatever.
Okay.
And again, it's very tempting to behave in an ugly way, right? But one thing that I try to remind myself is that the person you're talking to, no matter whether he disagrees with you, agrees with you politically or religiously or not, is also a child of God, right?
Yeah.
And once you start from there, then you're like, there's no need to be as vicious, right? The other person, obviously, you can't control what he's like, but certainly for yourself, I think that is where I found that very helpful. Once I just remind myself, the other guy is also, God loves the other guy as much as you, right? Don't be like the prodigal son's brother, older or younger. I can't remember the older or younger brother. Yeah,
I see.
Yeah, because obviously, if you believe you're a Christian, you believe that your way of life is, and your belief system is number one, right? Exclusively number one, and so there is a temptation to see other people as maybe inferior in their point of view, and especially true if you are someone who is well versed. Especially true if you are someone who actually knows the subject well, just as the prodigal son's brother knew his subject well, which was doing the right thing and being respectful and not sleeping with the pigs, right?
But he didn't know the subject of knowing the father's heart, and that's why he also.
I see.
Yeah.
If he just reminded himself, sure, he squandered his inheritance. He did all the thing he did, but God still loves him as much, and that's it.
Yeah. I find that I'm most like that. Like you said, when you think you're the expert, you think you are better than the person you're responding to. You know more, or this person. Wow, why this kind of stupid comment also can make. I think there's a very healthy corrective to that, though, and that's why I'm not surprised to hear that from you, MJ, or from Eddryll, because when you've gone through the process of making your videos or making your posts, I know, Eddryll, you like write a mini sermon before you post something on Malaysian Christian memes, right? The process of thinking through something before you actually post it, right? Already you've gone through all these corrective measures. You're not just thinking of what you know, but you're thinking about the people who are listening to it. And I think that's one, if not, that's one of the strongest point whereby, whether you post it or not, just thinking through what you're going to say, taking the time to think about the people you're saying it to, and just your own motives, right? These are actually things that you have to walk through before you even get to the point whereby you click post or click record. And I think that process is similar to any pastor preparing a sermon, right? The pastor would have thought of the passage a lot more than anyone who's hearing it from the congregation's perspective. And that's a very helpful thing when you're dealing with the internet, whereby everything is just post, comment, without
Exactly.
thinking. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you better with that.
Yeah. But isn't it tiring? I mean, the two of you, I know that you are nowhere near like stopping. You're knee deep in the stuff that you're doing. Whether it's YouTube or ministry or just producing content, and what keeps you going? Because it's one thing to start, and we actually have friends who have started, but we know the grind when you get to the point whereby, wow, either it's getting very boring or tiring, or actually there will be some days when you feel like, oh, I really don't feel like doing this anymore. What keeps you going?
MJ, you want to take this one first?
Sure. I don't have a very drawn out answer for this. Like when you say keep going, you mean in my profession or like being a Christian or what, like specifically, Kelvin?
I was thinking, to be honest, in your profession.
Right.
But yeah, actually related to that, being a Christian, because actually, MJ, and initially I asked you, are you being you? To me, you actually you're the same person.
Yeah, I try to be the same in videos and in real life, lah. That's why.
How do you do that though? Because even I myself, I don't know. I got YouTube voice, and I like got angmo. I cannot help it. I try to turn it off, and it helps me when I'm talking to you guys, because it's so refreshing to be able to talk to Malaysian and sound Malaysian. But I really admire you guys because you are like the same person, and I find that that's actually quite a skill.
To be fair, I don't think I'm exactly the same person. I still need like maybe 100-200% increase in energy. I mean, I am
really okay.
Yeah, because I never wanted to be like on YouTube or like I'm introverted, so things like presentation, public speaking, and all that is not something that I am like obsessed about improving, even though I may have the ability to do so. I don't know if both of you can relate to that, where you can do something, but and maybe even above average, but you're still doesn't fill you with a lot of enthusiasm, right? But it's enough that you need to do it, right? So that's my situation. So but I mean, to your original question, for my job, what keeps me going really is I realize a lot of it is, as a mini business owner, like making sure like my team like gets paid. I think it's something as simple as that.
Okay.
And then of course, putting out, specifically in my industry, putting out like what I think is lacking, which is like good quality content for finance and stock investing, things like that. So these are the two prime motivations. Then of course, underneath that would definitely be making money, of course, right? If you don't start a business to make some money, then I'm not sure. I mean, then work for or go start an NGO or non-profit, right?
Okay, all right.
Then that's what you do. So that's what I guess keeps me going on the business part. Then on the Christian part, it's always really, again, no sophisticated answer here, but it really is Paul, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, he is after Christ, obviously the role model, right? Someone to look to adopt his virtues and things like that. And we have to remember, like, he wrote the letters, many of the letters in jail.
Okay.
He went through all the things that he went through. He went through struggles, arguing with, I can't remember his name. Was it? He was arguing with one of the people that went on a voyage with him. I can't remember his name really.
Okay,
I know Eddryll.
right,
I know
Barnabas.
Eddryll.
Barnabas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then he has, and of course we know we know his what happened in the end, right? He got beheaded, right? So I just look at that, I'm like, well, whatever struggles, I mean, I would struggle to find a struggle that I'm having that would compare to what our spiritual forefathers went through, and as such, if they still maintain their faith in spite of all of that, then why not myself, and this is maybe a bit more striking to Malaysian Christians, where you are a minority. I'm not sure what the stats are, something like, I think 10 to 15% only of Malaysians are Christians, something like that. So you are a minority, and of course the state religion is one that is sometimes can be standing the way, an obstacle, right, to a lot of the progress that Christians want to make in this country. And of course, talk of oppression and difficulties that within the circle would definitely be there. But just remember, right, our spiritual forefathers, the 12 or 11 followers, they were contending with the Romans, right? And the Malaysian government is not, crucifying us upside down. They're not trying to burn us, and it's a lot, they had it way tougher than what we did. So I'm not here to say like, wow, your struggles are small, but in comparison to them, a struggle is a struggle. But you should know that at the end of the day, if our spiritual forefathers have been have pleased the Lord in essentially going through all of that, despite going through all of that, then I think we should be able to follow suit in a smaller capacity.
Wow. I was actually talking to a UK friend yesterday. So both of us were Christians, and we were talking about the UK church response during the pandemic. And I don't know if this is a fair comment. A lot of the churches here can do something, but they can also not do it, and it won't make much of a difference, because here the majority kind of like state religion is Christian.
Yeah.
So it's a choice between comfort and just doing nothing. Whereas I think being a minority is a very healthy perspective, because there's a cost to doing everything. Just for you to say that you're a Christian, just for you, actually there's a certain cost to that. I'm not sure if you feel that way, but I feel that way as well. And even though you compare it to the Romans, it's like much more fun. But I think it's very relative. And I think it's actually very fortunate for us to realize that anything we do, has a cost to it, whether we are speaking out to our friends or even coming out with a YouTube. And I think that might be why, comparison even to the UK, whereby, let's face it, there are a lot of very terra mera people here who are Christians, who can give sermons. I live in Cambridge, every sermon here, I can write book on straight away. But when it comes to something like going online, it's not that whether they can or cannot, it's rather like, can I bother or not? And most of them don't bother, because it's like not, it's uncomfortable. It's different from the decision back home, whereby if you do something like this and you know that there's a cost to it, maybe people will see it negatively, and you think, okay, all right, even if I don't do it, it's because I realize of the cost. That kind of thinking, right, I think is almost very healthy, because that kind of decision making goes into everything that you do. Whether I tell people that I went to church on Sunday, or whether, again, going very public on YouTube. I think that cost element is simply what it means to become a Christian. It's carrying your cross, it's realizing that everything has value simply because in light of what it means for you to even be a Christian.
Yeah, and without hogging too much, because I want Eddryll to speak on this also. Is that I think a lot of times people in our situation and all that, we don't profess the faith and all that. Part of it is because you don't get to see like the results, because as you said, there's a cost, right?
Yeah.
But then you think like, well, I do this, then where are the, like, I don't make headways, I'm not making progress, and things like that. Now, if someone is in that mindset and all that, which definitely myself has been there before and may continue in the future, we just never know. All I can say is that that's really like your pride talking, because that is based on the assumption, right, that you are the one that is going to affect the results. But what I think that God demands of us is not so much the results, but the intention and the faithfulness of carrying it out. And the example I always give is, recently I've been on a binge on Lord of the Rings, and for those listening, Lord of the Rings is a very, very Christian movie, and is one of those rare instances. So let's be honest, Christian movies do really bad in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But this specific one not only do well, right? I mean, this is like royalty, Hollywood royalty, right? And for those who have, I don't know if both of you all watch Lord of the Rings. Do you remember the story?
Yep.
Right. So the thing that I recently learned that just sort of like really opened my eyes about this, and learning about the theology and the practical applications from Lord of the Rings is exactly that. So imagine what you're trying to do is, again, you're trying to defeat the Saurons that is in your life, right? Okay. It could be spreading the faith, and it could be contending with another faith or whatever. And whatever you do, it feels like you're not making headway, you're not creating any results, and therefore you're going to just, put your hands off and not care, because what's the point, right? That's the mindset. Easily, right, the fellowship could have said the exact same thing. And in fact, if you look right at the end, whether it's the guys outside Mordor, right, when they were trying to attack the Black Gates, right, for those you know, or whether it's what's the name, Frodo and Sam, right, trying to get rid of the ring. Everything they did was actually futile, if you think about it. The guys who have never beaten off the orcs at the Black Gates, and of course both Sam and Frodo got got influenced by the ring's power, and that's why they never got rid of it. In fact, it is a story of a total failure. The fellowship is a failure.
Right.
Yes. If you remember the story, right, what actually got the ring to be destroyed, right, is Smeagol tripping over.
Oh, I forgot. Actually, yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah.
And that is all God. If those who read why the story was constructed that way, Tolkien, the author, was saying that the hero of the story is God, not you. And when you are saying things like, what's the point, right? You may not realize this, but it's your pride talking, and it's you wanting to be the hero. That's what I think. And people tend to forget this. We tend to think like, what, Frodo and Sam is the hero, and to in their own ways they are, but they are a small hero contributing to the big hero, which in this case is Christ. So back to in our situation, when we do something and there's no results and all that, but then you're like, but God, I'm faithful, right?
Okay.
But that God is not wanting you to create the results for him, because he's gonna do it, but he wants you to play your role. That's what I think, and that's a very long way of explaining lah.
That's very helpful.
All this,
brothers and sisters, do binge watch.
Lord of the Rings. Just every 5 years you rewatch Lord of the Rings, you learn new things about God, and that's a testament, of course, to God himself, and also, of course, Tolkien, who really put a lot of thought into this. I didn't realize this. Most movies you watch, right, it's some like the opposing hero, the protagonist, overpowering, let's say, the antagonist, right?
Yeah.
But no, none of the fellowship, no one, not the elves, not the dwarfs, not the hobbits, not the men that brought Sauron down. They could not.
Okay. Eddryll.
So just to be clear, because we have already went on a long process, right?
Yeah.
The question is why keep going, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a cliche answer, and then there's the personal answer. I mean, the
Okay.
cliche answer is an unavoidable question. Is if you have understood the gospel of Christ and what Christ has called you to, then the gospel naturally compels you to share the good news in whatever context you're brought to bring in. Like I have friends that they say, "Oh, Eddryll, it's time to run away to the forest. You know, the government,
Wow.
the Antichrist is gonna take over." Da 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 da.
I see.
You know, and I'm like, wait, if you run, right? Knowing that as MJ rightly put out, God is the one that's in total control. And if the story of the Antichrist is to play out, then you're gonna die, I'm gonna die, you know, whether you run or you hide, whether you have the mark of the beast or not, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But the question is, if you run, what is the gospel compelling you to then? That's the question. Because running away, there's this group of people here who do not know Christ, right? When we learn that how Christ runs towards us. So that's the cliche answer, right? But what keeps me going? I think also there's a need. You're recognizing a need. Were there days that I can just let it all off? No, because I know, yes, I do feel that way. But I came to the conclusion, no, because I have come to recognize and identify stakeholders here, right? People who when I meet them face to face, they say, "Oh, bro, I follow you on your Malaysian Christian memes. Thank you for doing this," you know. Or MJ says, "You know, yeah, that's my daily devotion, you know, every Saturday." That's not moments like this, right? Makes me realize there is a stakeholder, there is a community, and if the goal has always been relational, right?
Okay.
The whole idea is that the end goal was never the memes. The end goal was never having Malaysian Christian memes. The end goal is one day and I'm able to meet these people who chose to follow and chose to be disciple, you know, in this context.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm always ready if time provided to meet up. That's why, like, you know, can you think about it? Moses journeyed with the Israelites for decades, right? And in every point you read the Bible, right, Israelites were just, you know, like they were stubborn, right?
Not easy.
Even
not easy.
Moses
Yeah.
many times,
Yeah.
Moses like, oh, they're
Okay.
gonna stone me. God, what am I supposed to do? How am I
Okay.
supposed to deal with this? So in many moments, right, Moses had to deal with that, and it almost as if it felt like there was no fruitfulness in his life. But as MJ reminded us, right, is the goal was to be faithful, right?
Okay.
Parable of the talents. And it's interesting how in the parable of talents is well done, my good and faithful servant. You're faithful to a few, I'll give you more. It's more like, oh, you did this work, you did a good job, I'm gonna give you more work. But I'm just wondering, there is that wisdom, right, where Moses heeded Jethro's advice of having advisors and all that, leaders of the tribe, and that's what I apply the same same thing in Malaysian Christian memes on having a team lah.
Yeah.
And I will keep on going because I have recognized this is a God-given talent that calls me to faithfulness. Yeah. So will there be moments I might get in over my head myself? And sure, I pray someone will stop me. I pray Kelvin will like, hey, Eddryll, you posted this and you say you're patting yourself on the back. Just watch out lah. I said, oh, I had no idea. You know, I will pray that there will be a community that will be willing to tell me off, to allow me the space of this faithfulness. And the day if God wants Malaysian Christian memes to end, He will choose to end it at any moment. So as long as it exists, then I will use it as a platform to just be faithful lah. And so that's why I keep on going. There is no, I mean, God has to search my heart, right? You know, there's no personal agenda here. And I am ever ready to let go of Malaysian Christian memes. Hing hing wing wing. Kenneth Ho, if you ever want to take over, just say.
Yes, Kenneth Ho.
Delegation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my response in all of this, and yeah, I am grateful that through this space, in whatever little, right, I feel like I'm the one talent, okay, and
Okay.
other people gets that five talent and all that, but thank goodness I'm not that one talent that buries it under
Bury
the
everything,
ground.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because some people might look at the, okay, changing the term talent to the English meaning talent here, right? What
Yeah.
can making memes ever do? You know, what can making memes ever do?
Yeah.
But I realized that one talent, the memes was just a bridge, right? It doesn't save, it's just a bridge. It's a simple bridge. It's like they go on their phone like, oh wait, whoa, yeah, I see, sure.
I see.
Kind of thing, just to provoke
Yeah.
thought. And yeah, I will faithfully do that little thing for as long as God wills it, until God specifically says it is time. Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that because if you didn't mention it, I would have asked you about your team. Because I think not many people know this, but you run Malaysian Christian memes and actually you have a team and you intentionally brought the team together. You didn't wait until you went big, but actually you are constantly looking to let someone else
Grow.
do what you're doing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And how do you, well, I wanted to ask you how do you do that, but I just wanted to say that actually me being able to talk to you guys as well, this is so much more fun than me just talking to camera. Whoever's watching this is not, we never rehearse this, don't have any points of talking when. This one is really just chit chat and then after that just carry on talking. And it's very natural, it's very interesting, and I'm learning so much as well. And I remember there was something that MJ said last time before. You were talking about your one talent, right? MJ was saying something like it's people find it more engaging watching someone learn something about learning how to exercise as opposed to like already bodybuilder and everything like that. People like to see progress. People actually like those who starting out in a very small way, and that is much more relatable, much more accessible than the Terra Mera power and
Yeah. I mean, people always like movies with good character development, right? So naturally, if you're putting yourself out there, I mean, starting off, in whatever, right? On YouTube especially, or Instagram, people think that they have to be a finished article, right? To go out there. First of all, the whole concept is completely false, right?
Yeah.
There is no such thing as a finished article. Secondly is that you put yourself out there, you expose yourself to criticism, constructive or otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to go in with the mindset of being winsome and open to correction, to be low in pride, things like that. I think that is very, very helpful.
It's a positive. It's a feature. It's not a bug. Actually, it's great to start out small and not have like too many people notice in the first instance. And even while you're small, actually just to do it with friends or even purposely get feedback and even do it together with other friends, because it's, I don't know, I was just wondering, it's kind of sad if you ever get to the point, people dream about getting to the point whereby lots of people are following them, lots of people are liking them, and then they're like one fella only, and then the kind of pressure, the kind of image that you think you have to be in order to appeal to that kind of audience, it can be all in your head, and actually it can be, I don't know, it's just not as satisfying as even having it's the comparison of having few friends as opposed to having a large following. I think the few friends it makes a lot more sense than having a lot of strangers whom you don't know liking your page or following you on Instagram, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's interesting how you brought it up that way, right? Because you see, I mean, the purpose of what, for example, MJ and I do is to bring good content and to reach out to people. Then when someone comes and says, I want you to like my page, I want you to like my content, and I'm according to you, then that gives you an idea that you are supposed to serve me rather than me serve you, right? So it's probably very subtle, but maybe something to ponder on when someone would have responded in such a manner. That's just my quick thought.
So I mean, I asked you guys to go on this. I didn't expect you guys to say yes. I must say, I had this in my mind for a long time and I didn't want to because there's always a part of me that thinks, the moment we do something online or it spoils the friendship lah. Even now, I'm a bit hesitant. And it's because, you want things to end, like after we finish this episode and we close already, you want to still be friends. You still want to be able to talk as normally. You don't want things to change just because you turn on the camera and then you start talking about certain serious subject. So actually, I think in a good way, if that stops you, what I'm saying is that if that stops you from putting something online because you want to preserve a friendship, because it's and there are other channels like just talking on WhatsApp or talking directly, those are valuable as well. But if you ever get to the point whereby you say you want to reach to other people, and whereby you're able to do this in a way that communicates not just your thoughts, but actually a kind of relationship. And that's the point I wanted to do this. Actually, I wanted people to just talk to their friends more about the things that they are really thinking of in a way that would be encouraging to the people they're talking to. I think that's worthwhile doing. I think I'm seeing a lot more of this kind of content coming out, whereby I think it's a good trend. All these kind of long form content. I know MJ, you appear on all these like chat shows and podcasts, right?
Yeah.
I think what is interesting about that is that I realize it takes a certain amount of time before you actually start hearing what someone is actually saying.
Yeah,
And
correct.
Yeah. So actually, I wonder. Actually, you're. I don't know. I've never done something like that. In fact, this is probably my first experience about that. Why do you think that's so? Why do you think those kind of things are taking off?
I think it takes energy to put on a show. If someone wants to present to you a specific image, they can do that. They can be good, but there's only so long they can do it. And why long form content is good is because it takes away the ability to do that, especially those that hit the 2 hour, 3 hour mark kind of podcast. You can't put on a show for that long, right? Politician speeches are not that long. So and that's why people like Joe Rogan on his podcast is so successful, because he doesn't have to do much. All he has to do is just ask guiding, leading questions, follow-up questions and things like that, and slowly just thaws whatever ice walls that someone is putting around themselves after 2-3 hours, and then you see roughly who the person is. It's actually almost impossible. Like if you keep talking for like 2 hours straight, right? Like the mind suddenly just starts. I don't know how to describe it. People have to experience it. Being on a 2-3 hour podcast, you just like sometimes you just like your mouth is just going, and then your mind is on a different length and wavelength. So that's why I think, like, I don't know, was that your question? Actually, I forgot already.
That's exactly why I wanted to ask you. The experience of doing that. Yeah.
That's why long form content will always produce the most like raw kind of content, but it takes time for that to. I mean, it's the same concept as if you meet, let's say, a romantic partner in the first time, right? First few times.
Yeah.
Okay,
first impression,
fantastic.
Right? Yeah.
Then everyone always say, hey, the first time, maybe you travel together, or maybe when you get married and stay together, that's when you start to see like something a lot more, with a lot more detail. So I think it's the same concept here. Yeah.
Actually, what do you think, Eddryll? I know to me it's quite a new idea, but I'm starting to see the value of it.
This is probably my first also, I think.
First, right? I mean, this is quite strange.
First long time.
Yeah. We won't. By the way, we won't go 4 hours. I know, like we'll probably end in about 15 minutes or so. But I just want to get your take on this.
Yeah, I think my take on it is actually nothing much else to add. Long form content works in a sense where these are people who have been following us for the longest time, right? So those who know MJ, myself, or you, and they, to a certain extent, they look up to us for certain contexts. Then they'll be more interested to peek into our brains even more. or not, then they'll be like, oh, this is too long, I got no time for it.
Yeah.
So when someone chooses to make time for long form content, that reveals that they value whoever that they're listening to lah. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes both ways, right? Because it costs us the time to do this as well.
Yes,
But
yes,
actually,
yes,
for the
yes.
listener, can you imagine if anyone's listening at this point of time? I don't know. It's not like as long as some of the podcasts that MJ's been on, but to me, I think I really respect whoever has actually made it this far as well. So it goes both ways. Yeah,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so I think it pays off. I think quality is quantity. Yeah, in order to get to that point, especially in relationships, there's no replacement for time.
Yeah.
There's no replacement for just, setting aside all the distractions and actually just building a relationship. Yeah. Okay. All right. How to end? What advice? Okay. How about this? Okay. How about this? Someone who is starting out, thinking of starting out another version of Malaysian Christian memes, or someone who is actually like MJ, already established, but then someone asks a Christian question about them, how would they respond, and how would you, what advice or what tips would you give them in such a way that would be helpful, encouraging, instructive?
Okay. For me, if someone wants to come and start another Malaysian Christian memes, I'll just say, why not just join me? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But if you want to insist on continue on starting on your own, for whatever reason, I will not stop you. I'm just gonna continue to be faithful with my one talent. If God has so given you 10 talents to work with that gift, praise God. I don't think there'll be in any moment that things like this will make us pit against each other. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. The next advice I would say is that in all things, have a very Christological mind. Yeah, and what do I mean by Christological is always ask, where is Christ in all of this? Always be humbly aware of why you do what you do lah. Yeah. And I'm guessing when you say that, do you mean just for more Christian context, or actually general also?
Well, for you, definitely Christian context, because
That's
I think
true.
the main audience for Malaysian Christian memes are people who are already Christian, but at the same time are looking for a kind of, how do you put it, accessible, relatable way of communicating the Christian faith. I think that's something you do very well.
Yeah, so actually, if you word it that way, right, I the only one thing that I can actually say is, why not join the Malaysian Christian memes community and be more involved? Drop us a text and say, hey, I've been doing this. Does it contribute in any way? I'm looking for someone to do a weekly devotion, 15-minute devotion. Just go on the Instagram live and start talking about the Bible. I'm looking for more people to make memes. I'm looking for more people to do the Q&R. I'm always looking for more people to contribute to this. I'm looking for people to compile the memes to make a book. There's all of this that comes to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So any advice? Okay, then I will say this lah.
Okay.
If God has placed something that is different, but it's online, then gospel partner with me in whatever means, right? But if not, right, then if the goal is aligned, because there is no other personal agenda on my end. This is me as a Christian. This is how I'm gonna reach out to the space through memes and engagement as a Christian. If you believe what I believe in the approach, then join me. Come join us in the team, right? So growing the team is by far a testimony that there are people who resonate with this and want to contribute in that sense lah. And I believe more will come. And obviously I have to screen check who they are lah. But that's just my quick thoughts lah. And then I think finally would be, in everything that you do, make your ministry not become your God, because it is very easy, and it's so very subtle and scary that because one is doing such good work at what they are, be it at their churches, the conference that they run, the Instagram channels that they do, it can be a subtle thing where you might glorify it more than certain
very
other
real.
things. So like
Yeah.
it is a real thing because
Yeah.
if I may continue a little bit longer, right? Sometimes when I go to a church and the church then mentions certain product more than Jesus or God, for example, it becomes, I won't, it's not for me, oh, this is wrong already. No, it's just, I think it's a point to ponder whether our priorities are off, right? And it's not for, it's not, and I don't think I will use it as a moment where, oh, this church is going down the drain or that kind of thing, but rather it's a point to ponder because all of us are struggling, all of us are still making mistakes, but do we
Yeah.
have the capacity for one another to you know, to disciple one another? So like if if the particular church is mentioning this particular product, I'll just work up, hey, you know, you were mentioning this often, are you willing to think about this, rather than, wow, you thorough, like, you, what kind of church is this? So there is the response that does
Yeah.
matter. Gracious and gentleness is a very key element in discipleship and rebuking. I was just taking out the context of not just churches lah, in every context that you're in lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
people are always watching. So that's my advice. I have Christ in mind lah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Good-
by the way,
good
I mean,
answer.
Eddryll is like one of the most, for me, actually, personally, you are the guy that I go to keep me in check, and simply because you are so inviting and encouraging in everything that you do. So actually, I think I must say that whoever's listening is very sincere one, and I think it's such good advice that you can, of course, start something on your own, but if there is an opportunity for you to learn from and to partner with someone who's already doing this, it's just beneficial, you know, already in the short term and long term. Yeah. What about you, NJ?
There was such a mesmerizing answer. I forgot the question.
Someone in your shoes,
Yeah,
and wanting to be, you know, maybe leveraging on what they have, but also in a way that's faithful as a Christian, or, you know, thinking, oh no, should I not be, not to say even public as a Christian, but if someone asks them a question, you know, why is it that you're a Christian? You know, how far should they go in terms of responding to
Right.
that?
First and foremost, I would say that you ought to be public about your faith.
Okay.
You ought to be, yeah, because and by public I don't mean like you go out there, hello guys, Christian here, then an arrow pointing. That's not what I
Yeah.
mean. What I mean by Christian is, you know, you tell people, yeah, I go to church, I'm Christian, or like you see something wrong, say, yeah, I don't think that's something that, you know, my faith allows, whatever. Right? You don't have to like declare to the world that you want to be. And if you feel a little bit of apprehension as to the publicity of your faith, then I would ask why. You know, I believe in the power of investing in stocks, for example. I'm not private about it. You know, if I have a partner and if I have a partner and I'm not going to be private about it, right?
Yeah,
Right?
that's
No,
true.
she's not my, you know.
That's a good analogy.
So
Yeah.
things that we believe in, things that we have a strong affinity for, you know, I mean, another good example is like football fans. Right? Nobody's gonna hide that they are a fan of this club or whatever.
Yeah.
Things like that, they are not going to hide. And why are you hiding your faith when it ought to
Okay.
be the most important, I guess, identification or
Yeah.
identity for you? So why are you hiding? And very often it's perhaps that you don't even believe in the faith that you're talking about, or perhaps that you feel declaring your allegiance to Christ means that you lose friends, or perhaps you lose a job, or perhaps you lose something. And if that's what's worrying you, then really, you know, Christ is, I don't think it's your God. I think the thing that you're afraid to lose is your God, right? So that's what I think that's the attitude you probably need to have. Now, that's only on a personal level of how you should be public. Now, specific to your point about social media and being public, right? This essentially, it's a mega public engine, right? It's huge, right?
Yeah.
Then you can, if you've cleared that answer, right, of your conscience of why you want to be public, i.e. you are already, you okay, people ask you a Christian, you say I'm Christian, and you want to live out Christ-like behavior and things like that. Once you've gotten past that, then a much, I guess, easier question to answer is like, do you have the ability to do it? Like, are you someone who is perhaps articulate? Not that you have to be very articulate, but things like that. Or do you have a calling or whatever? That those questions are probably a little bit more easy to answer. And if the answer is like, I don't think that I'm going to be great on social media, A, or B, there seems to be no obligations for me to be on social media, i.e. no one's asking for it, right?
Okay.
Like, for example, then you can, I think, have the option to say, yeah, let's serve the kingdom in a different way.
I think that's very helpful. Yeah, I think already starting with the personal and starting with the directness, if someone actually asks you a question, if you're a Christian,
even if you did say like do you say in the conversation that do you have to like stutter when you say I'm a Christian? Then something is up really, like how, like, why are you?
That's true. Hey, I confess I'm a bit like that, people are surprised. Sometimes they watch a video, right? And then they ask me about it. Then I quite shy to say personally, and that's me. I fully admit that actually there is a certain kind of inward confidence that I am still dealing with, and in a weird way, it's almost easier to do the social media video thing than it is to grapple with my own spiritual walk and my own relational talk when I'm talking to someone one-on-one, because then it's real. Then actually, I'm dealing with, am I really speaking for Christ in a way that actually I'm willing to have it affect my own real relationships with friends. So I don't know if that helps, but actually I do grapple with that, myself. Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
briefly saying I would say thank you for saying that I think even now, or especially in the year 2022, I think because MCO, or this my thoughts has caused us to have less physical contact, it adds on the weight, right, that we grapple it even more, because it's like I have this long period of not having need to be confronted with things, or when I'm talking need to confront things, and all of a sudden, right, is a bit overwhelming and I think I feel it too sometimes. Okay, fair, you might say I'm more comfortable when I'm talking to people, but I think it doesn't take away the struggle nonetheless. I just wanted to affirm you that we all also feel the same way
Thanks for that.
We have to remember the story of Peter, right, denying Christ, right, like not taking it.
Yeah, when theoretical say, "Oh, I'll die for you," but then actually, when he actually in actuality, he can all go out the window. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we've exhausted everything already. I just want to say that whoever is listening, I actually got a whole load of questions. I feel so bad about this. Actually, I posted NGL link, said, ask me any questions and everything. I didn't ask any of them, but there were so many good questions. I really appreciate them. I don't know what I'll do with them. Maybe for another time. I wasn't planning this to be a series or anything. This was really more of an experiment. But I just want to acknowledge that, and we'll think what to do with those questions, because they're such good questions. But
I saw the angeling also.
Yeah, actually they were really good questions, but really no time.
The mega church one was really fascinating.
I wanted to ask that. Yeah. But I want to end with last words. Last thing that you want to say to whoever's listening, to say your peace of mind before we cut him and finish everything. Start with MJ.
Okay.
I think, keep it simple and say, like, stay faithful and don't be like outcome dependent in the way you do things, which is very challenging, obviously, because probably you're working somewhere that is very, like, requires you to be outcome dependent, right? A job, whatever. Realize that a lot of things really is not in your hands. You're required to be faithful. You're not required to save the world. Yeah.
That's cool. Eddryll?
Yeah, I think I give something slightly different lah, because I think MJ really hit the nail there. Then whoever's listening to this, I hope that you watching us three converse with one another, we hope that it's been honest enough for you to see that we too are still walking and processing and journeying through this process, and this is all very, very new to us, and that you are able to see the privilege of three friends talking to one another, and that you may be blessed by the honesty. Yeah, I'll word it that way lah. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, for these two guys, I'm blessed so much through their friendships. I'm already blessed, through the stuff that they are doing. But actually, I feel it's such a privilege to have that relationship, and always put relationship above, whatever work or ministry. I think that's a real gift that God gives us. That often it is small, but that's why it's so precious. Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks you guys, and thanks to you guys who are listening. This has been just three fans catching up, talking stuff that we normally talk anyway, but we're hoping to share it in a way that will be encouraging you as well. So take care, God bless, and we always goodbye. Bye-bye.